When we get to the FBI, we don't know who did the work. You heard that any of that information is redacted. We don't know who did the work. It's a giant secret. We know that by the time the FBI gets involved, the profile, the text file, that's a snip to use to try to identify somebody is more than twice as big when it gets to the FBI from Othram. We don't know how.
I've got an itch I can't scratch, I'm missing a piece that completes a whole part of me, an open wound scar to see. Everybody come here, gather round, welcome to the freak show, the best in town.
What is going on, Hive? If you're new here, welcome to the Hive. This is a contrarian thinking live stream where we are not afraid to think past the headlines. So if you are rattled or offended on behalf of others rather easily, this is probably not going to be the stream for you. But if you are maybe known as the conspiracy theorist in your friend group and you like to look into what the mainstream media might be covering up to protect those powerful individuals at the top, well, you have found your people and you are amongst friends, and welcome. I got Lana backstage from Truth and Transparency. Extremely excited to have her into the Hive. I know you all are as well. How are you doing?
Great. Thank you for having me, Birdie.
Lana, I'm not sure how much you do tune into the Hive. I was kind of talking to you backstage about how the stream is structured, but usually I start with the theme. And in general, what are your thoughts on the Idaho 4 case with the media? It's a rather straightforward, simple question, but what are your thoughts on it when it started? What are your thoughts on it today?
Well, first of all, my first thought on the media is they get a lot of it wrong, regardless if you're this way, that way, doesn't matter. They have people that are guests on their channels that are absolutely clueless about the case as far as Idaho 4 that I've seen. I mean, this is a case that there was a huge leak, not just once, but multiple times. And that leak came from somewhere, and there is still a special prosecution going on right now, or a special prosecutor that was assigned, and it's still being investigated. So there was a leak to mainstream media, and it's going back and forth. Well, the prosecution is saying it was, the defense is saying it was the prosecution. We all know that there's been a leak before there was ever even a defendant. So I would put all my chips on the prosecution side that's where the leak is.
I was thinking at one point when Steve G was doing the media tour, I was trying to think through what would be the benefit of having it come from a victim's parent. And I thought about the narrative, as I typically do. And it's like, let's say that leak would have done something to mess up the trial. It would have been a mistrial. Who knows what it would have caused? When that got into the news, if it was anybody but a victim's parent, you would put a lot of blame on it. But I think that was maybe a safeguard at one point, or at least that was the thought that I had going through my head, where it's like, you can't blame the victim's parent for trying to spread the word on certain things that they don't feel like are being investigated properly, or maybe they think that this is actually what's happening. And I don't know what your thoughts are on that, but that was why I thought Steve G was doing all that.
See, actually, my take on it is, if you go back and look at the records, Steve G and Shannon Gray basically went off on Bill Thompson back in January of 2023, and they were adamant that the prosecution had a leak, and they wanted to get in front of it back then. Like, hey,
they were adamant.
Yeah, Steve G and Shannon Gray called out Bill Thompson. It's in writing. It's in the paperwork, because they were adamant of trying to keep the trial in Moscow. And so it was like Steve G and Shannon Gray were like, you're gaslighting us. Okay. And so I think that they basically called them out and had that meeting. And then the meeting minutes got let out. And I think that's where actually the tension really strongly came from, pitting some parents against each other, unfortunately.
Yeah, that is unfortunate. It is definitely a high profile case that you do not see families really publicly buying together. And I don't think privately they were either, from the sounds of it.
I think that has a lot to do with the leadership, though. That should, by reading these reports and saying, hey, you're going to be given the death notice here, or you're going to be going over there and doing this. And I mean, these parents were never brought together to like talk to at the same time. And I get it at first, maybe if you're trying to figure out, okay, did one of the parents have anything to do with this? But once you kind of get past that, I just think that how you could never, like, as an investigator, you want to be able to have the trust of the families. And so if you don't have the trust of the families, I mean, what are you doing?
You're cooked at that point if the families don't trust you. All right, moving on to the Discord question of the day. Cool. So, Lana, what usually we have is somebody submits a question of the day, and today's comes from Chaos Quinn 81. They actually referenced I picked this one because they referenced, you had a post out. And so this is a screenshot that you had of Dylan, who had said, well, first off, we heard Xana and Ethan. This is going back to the beginning.
Yeah. Could I tell you something about that screenshot though?
Yeah. Yeah.
The reason I put that out there is because Maury did a, so Olivia Gonsalves in the beginning, a couple days into the murder investigation, they had sent Maury some screenshots that they said that they thought Dylan had posted these. And so Maury then went and put a preserve on a couple different accounts. It's in the reports. And so I had asked my crew, hey, do you guys remember that post from back in the day where the name was Dylan and everybody wondered if it was, true or not? So we believe that this is not a real account. But I'm like, if anybody can get to the bottom of whose account this was, and if it was preserved, you should know whose account, it was. But
right.
He preserved 4 accounts. Maury did. So that's where that's from, just so you know.
Yeah. Yep.
We don't know if I should say this. It's never been confirmed it's like hers or not, but what's actually in there is kind of wild, but
it is wild. And that's actually what the question is about, which is what's Dylan's real room? We still don't have that answer. Why cut the sound? And I have a clip here. What did Dylan actually say? To me, it sounds like Dylan is arguing with someone from the group in this clip. And I'll go ahead and play this.
I was trying to go to bed and I heard Kaylee, who, ex-girlfriend, who has a dog in her.
Real fast, which one is your room?
Kaylee.
Which one is your room?
Oh.
What room are you in?
they redacted that?
Yeah.
You were in that room?
My room, not Xana's room. My room.
And your room is this one right here?
Next to the stairs. That one, Xana's room.
Second floor room.
Second floor.
We'll be able to get that unredacted for the record.
Yeah. Yeah.
They were being extra cautious when they first put this out. So I made a mental note now that you just played that we'll be able to talk to Moscow and get that. Actually, that should not be redacted.
It's a little bit interesting though. But so for as much as people will say that Birdie is just this tinfoil hat wearing conspiracy theorist,
I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think what makes you is that you're you, but it's how you talk about something that like, hey, we are talking about it in this kind of like light, You're not trying to make it something that it's not, which then that's where it gets weird. And that's why I love it. Like it's authentic.
Yes, it's authentic. It's a conversation. And then I'm always showing my screen, but I look at this. And if anybody's ever wondering like a blueprint of how a conspiracy could start, well, you have what's an unknown verified account of a alleged victim saying that where she was sleeping and what was going on is way different than what's been publicly reported. And then in the body cam footage, they have that redacted. So it's like that could absolutely be basis to start it. But then if they would have just released it unredacted, you'd be like, well, it's probably a fake tweet or whatever post that is. And it's not that they're trying to hide it. So you can kind of see how it goes from A to B rather quickly.
So I always like to know who's the source of the source. So check this out. Who sent that to Olivia? You know what I'm saying?
Question. That's a great
That's
question.
how you find out a bunch of stuff. Like, when someone sends you something in like your DMs or like your, your email, and they're like, oh my God, you need to go check this out. So-and-so said something about you. And then you go to this wild account that has like 2 subscribers. They just posted a video 2 minutes ago. And you're like, yeah, it's yours. How could you have found that?
Right. Exactly.
So it's funny that over the years now, I've learned how to be, I think, a professional. They call it gaydar, but I call it like trolldar.
Trolldar?
Yeah, I can find the trolls.
Can I steal that for a sign that I make? I'm gonna put a sign on stream of like trolldar.
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
hilarious.
Get a meter going, man.
And wait till you hear the tinfoil hat conspiracy of the day that I have at the end of the stream for you, because I try to pick one that I'm like, okay, what's one that I could see being applicable to you, and it's not just like like last night I was saying that all of the LED lights that turned blue really weren't a defect, and they're just scanning your body to see if it's some sort of facial recognition for Palantir. But I digress. Now let's get into some Hive Mind finds here. This first one comes from Cat's Mojo, and they said found this interesting poll on Reddit, and somebody had posted, has your opinion of BK changed since the documents and body cam footage were released? a lot of people still said no. However, there were some comments, and I don't have to read all of them, but I just thought to myself, what a weird full circle moment that people are asking on Reddit in a survey what people think about a certain situation. I got BK down here with his thumb up saying Reddit surveys. Like, try to tell you guys this is an effective way.
Well, it's funny. A kid that's posting about on Reddit, and then now all of a sudden he's being surveyed on Reddit.
197 total votes. 50% said yes, it has changed. 113 said no. 34 said a little. So it's maybe 40, 60 that something's changed in their head, and 113 that apparently probably have no idea what they're talking about. But their thoughts, I thought Coffee Light.
I don't even know. I have zero thoughts on Brian Kober. Like,
yeah,
you know, you look at the victims and they have all this social media out there. I feel like, dude, I was like partying with them. You know, when you saw the party videos and you've gotten to see like their families, and their families have like taken on like their legacy in other ways. And so it's like you feel like, you know, you know these families, and you talk about Brian Kober, and it's just like, all right, I think the most insight I got from Brian Kober is probably his apartment pictures that have come out. I mean, we don't know. I mean, I don't know anything about this person.
The next one, I submitted this one, which I've only ever done twice. I have never seen this angle of this footage, and I just said it's like murder without a mess that you would think at least. So I said the knife sheath DNA that appeared out of nowhere, and I was just kind of ranting typing this, but it's like the sheath appeared out of nowhere. Staged looking crime scene, apartment photos, moving pictures where you see the moving boxes and the moving van and the truck with the mattress, the bizarre 911 call, the total lack of transparency from law enforcement and courts. The whole thing screams manufactured narrative instead of truth. And I'll play this video.
Gear whatsoever. No one's even got gloves on. Nothing whatsoever.
Yeah, this is from December 29th, I believe. December 30th. And it was right while the arrest was happening, / it was like that next day. And then immediately it was told to stop immediately.
I'm very excited to show you this, Lena, because there's a method to the madness of the conspiracies. And I said, watch the power of the Hive on this. So last night I'm going off on how I'm like, there is effing Korean written all over this board. Okay. Like,
can you read Korean?
I can't, but I did put it, I screenshotted it and I put it into Google Translate. I had another person in the Hive send me what they found from Google Translate, and I put it into ChatGPT to Google Translate it. And it says that this is Korean. And obviously I got Brian Kober here in a traditional male Korean
That's what
outfit.
that is. Brian.
So, right.
I see the word Brian written above over to the right. BRYAN. I see that over there next to the green arrow to the right.
And people could say that they're getting different things on their translates or their GPTs, whatever. I mean, I did it live last night. But I want to talk through at least my thought process on this, because this is interesting to see my thought process and then see what somebody in the Hive said, that if it is Korean and if my thought was right, they took it to a step where it's like, see, that's a reasonable explanation that kind of reels me in a little bit, right? But I saw this Brian and I saw like this odd comma. It just seems exaggerated. And then I saw this little line when you looked at the Teddy Roosevelt card. And I'm like, that looks exactly like this line here. It looks like very similar. So I'm like, well, what is that shit? And I'm like, is that like, that looks like a Japanese letter is what I thought. And I'm like, kind of all of this does. And it comes out to like, there's knife, there's a number 4, and it says knife, 4 people dead, Brian Koberger, punishment, legal case. I could be wrong. I'm owning that. This is a ChatGPT translation.
Yeah.
Okay? I'm owning that. But listen to now. Fun. Yeah, I'm having fun. And I'm also like, I don't know, it looks like Korean. And this caught my eye. That's how my brain works. I can't help it. So then you look at what Liz had sent. And I'm like, this is actually such a good thought process. They said, Birdie, another way to investigate what it all means is to know if all of it was written by both BK and the Korean assistant before or after the murder. If it was after the murder, then it is possible that they were analyzing the case together in both languages. Because there are so many redactions, it is too hard to tell what is missing from BK himself. This is redacted on purpose. It has to be post-crime and probably the last day of class because the writing is still on the board. Looking at it in this manner is just more proof that he was analyzing the case along with the Korean words that you have interpreted. You should be sure to mention this to the rest of the Hive as a plausible explanation for the info on the board. It is also not probable that it was written before the crime because of what you've shown about what it said with knife, unless you're saying BK knew a knife was going to be used in the crime in the future. Now, that is interesting. This guy also looks nothing like BK. It's the best AI could do. But now, I put a couple pictures here that's just random shit that I'm curious as to what your thoughts are.
I'm going to
The
help
first
you.
one, I mean, what do you think? Duplicates,
I got you on
planted,
that.
rental car?
Okay, so number one, your research book. It's research methods. It is not the same book. If you look over here to the right, which is in the office, the research methods book right there is a heavily used book. It's not in pristine condition. You can see up top you have the tabs.
Oh yeah,
Like if you're
I never noticed
your
that.
tabs. So that right there, all of those books right there, that was equivalent to what the classes were taking. That means these are books that you must get if you are, whether you're taking the class, whether you're teaching the class, whatever. I don't have his schedule to tell you which is which, but if you go through that research methods book right there on the left in his room is in pristine condition.
Yeah,
The research methods book over there on the right that's in the office is definitely not in pristine condition and has the tabs on it.
And this one you can tell was opened, but a lot of them look, you're right, they look brand new.
Kind of going with like if Brian Kober, right, is the killer, right? People are talking about you're planning this, how far you're planning this. I mean, when you read all of those book titles, you're like, wow, God, look at this. It's like he knows the criminal justice system. He's saying he's innocent with these books, basically. You know what I mean? And he's being framed, or you're getting an innocent person to, plea and shit like that. So it's very interesting to me looking at this, like, wow, talk about this semester of school books and what you were asked to go and get based on these classes. Again, that's if all of them were assigned. We're actually in the process of going through that at the Book It. It's called, or Bookie, Bookie. It's where you can buy your books at WSU. I'm trying to get one of those people to talk.
It's not submitting bets on a pay
That's
line
what I was like, come on, how are you gonna like
ruin? Do they have like bookie.com? Is that what what is their
need to? That's what they call their damn bookstore over there, like Bookie.
That's funny. Any thoughts on that? Why would he need a rental car? He owns his car. Is it even his?
Brian puts a lot of miles on his car. We learned that early on with his Carfax, based on when he had it in Pennsylvania. Then he had it serviced, but he put on like something like 30 or between 30 and 40,000 miles in 1 year. And so I was like, wow, that actually is really good for Brian's defense with this whole like driving. Okay. Driving at night, driving around. I've actually been to Idaho. I could tell you this, like you could drive for days out there, man, and you do not have service.
I saw this in the Discord. Do we know how many names were given by either Bethany, DM, or any family members?
They never said any names as far as all the reports that we have. They never said a name ever. Only the names that they've ever talked about as far as Bethany or Dylan was concerned was just who had access to the house, as far as who had the passcode.
Right.
Who people were like dating or talking to, you know what I mean? Like something like that. Something that I think is interesting is Blaker, who's been around the Moscow Police Department for 20 some years. I think he refers to himself as having 27 years at one of the body cams. So let's just say 20 plus years. And so he would have rank there in terms of, seniority or whatever. If there's anybody that should know how to do something right, it's going to be people that have been around, and have gone through murders in that town. Everybody wants to say that something would never happen here in Moscow. Well, actually, if you just don't report on something, then yeah, it would make it seem like it's fucking Mayberry, but it's not. So I wanted to track Blaker's movements because Blaker is the plug. So let me explain what Blaker was doing in this investigation. On November 13th, he arrives at MPD. He interviews people there and then goes to the scene, and is then there at the scene, walks through it. Which, if you're not a detective, why are you walking through? but he doesn't write up any of his report to do with walking through the scene until in January. Okay, almost February. November 14th, he goes with Detective Vargas back to the scene, okay, and doesn't make a report, though, that he was ever there. And then on the 15th, nothing. Okay, so what are you doing on the 15th? Like, literally, there's no report of anything that man did on the 15th. Now, Blaker was
Day off,
assigned...
maybe? Like,
yeah, exactly.
I don't know.
Blaker was assigned to be Bethany and Dylan's handler. So on November 16th, as you can see here, he flies and he goes to interview Bethany, okay? Whether he flew on November 16th or whether he flew on maybe November 15th night, he interviews Bethany in Nevada on the 16th. Then he flies on the 16th back so that he's back in Boise. So he flies out of Boise to go to Nevada, flies back in. Then on November 17th, he's in Boise, and that's where him and Gooch take on Dylan and interview her. November 18th, nothing. November 19th, nothing. No report. November 18th, no report. November 19th, no report. November 20th, no report. Then on November 21st, he gets back into a vehicle in the morning from Moscow on the 21st, drives to Boise to pick up the vial that has the DNA profile for the sheath, to then catch a flight that night out of Houston, to then arrive, it's a red eye. He's then in Houston on November 22nd to then, here you go at 3 p.m. to Othram. Okay. Then no report on November 23rd, 24th, 25th, 26th, 27th. No reports. You cannot find where that man is November 23rd, 24th, 25th, 26th, 27th. Nothing on November 28th. November 29th, he has a report that he writes up in July of 2023 to say that, oh, hey, yeah, I was at the scene and I had dealt with the tow trucks that took the cars up out of there to put them where they were going to put the victims' cars.
This is a decent point, not to interrupt, but someone said Thanksgiving. Maybe. I don't know.
They worked all through that. Thanksgiving was on November. You guys, when there's a murder, I mean, I'm sorry to say, but when you're a cop and you're a detective, no, I'm going to get to why this is like this, though.
Especially if he was ended up being
so we know this, he did not do anything. Just so we're clear here, he did not do anything. The man did not record this because he was the FBI's motherfucking gopher. But I'm gonna tell you how he did it, though. He was the plug with WSU, Pullman. Like I'm showing you here, he's getting on the planes, he's flying, and you have to ask yourself, well, Lana, is that normal? Fuck no, because that's not going to hold up in court. Like when Blaker gets on the stand and Ann Taylor was going to bend him over because
50 states.
Oh, she was, because we're going to get to the fact of like, well, why are you writing all these? Because there's no reports of like, well, how would the FBI get X, Y, and Z, or how did this happen? And then here he comes in July of 2023 or in July of 2024 or in 2025 writing up reports for something that you did like literally in the first 2 weeks of an investigation. Like, what are you doing? To keep track of here is that he tows those cars, or he watches them get towed. He watches the ECU come out of a couple of the cars, but nothing on December 1st, nothing on December 2nd, nothing on December 3rd. And so I did that. So it's like a 3-week period. I don't know if you're able to just like punch it in and it will pop up the report. Well, here you go. Look at what he did. Remember, they're not supposed to have anything to know anything about like the white Elantra. Right here it says on 11/19, he notifies or gets requesting a list of the vehicles with the parking permits on campus. But do you see how they go ahead and they say they have it already listed as we're looking for the Elantras, for any white Elantras dating back to 2017. And then check this out. Type in number 266. This is like March of 2024. So like it's like a year and a half later.
Received an email from Captain Blaker containing 2 attachments. The first attachment was titled Vehicle List. This document contained all information on MPD's fleet of vehicles to include non-patrol and unmarked vehicles. The second attachment, MPD schedule 11/12 to 11/13. This document contained the entire shift schedule for MPD officers from those dates. These 2 documents were provided in response to defense counsel request. I attached both files to the Spillman case file. That's
your proof right there. When everybody wants to know Ann Taylor and what she was onto, Ann Taylor wanted to know every single fleet that Moscow had just in their MPD, but we also want to know what you drive personally.
Right.
What vehicles you have personally, and your schedule on 11/12 and 11/13. And do you notice how, though, it's like I received an email from Blaker containing, well, then Blaker, why aren't you writing up this report? If you did if you have all this stuff, okay, he's had these things. He's had these.
It's crazy.
Okay,
so
Blaker, why aren't you just doing it? He's like that's what I'm saying. He's like the gopher.
Exactly. And you also think, I've always thought about the hearing a firecracker, seeing a flash, and I'm like, well, who's in the area at the time that would have a gun on them?
Yeah, well, what's crazy is Dylan says that it was based off of what cops were saying as to why she started talking about like an arrow and shit. Like, it's like, what cops did you talk to and when did this happen?
Yeah. It
doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't make any sense. And plus, seeing the flash also doesn't really make sense either if it happened where it did, because the flash wouldn't go through a wall. It would have been,
Yeah, no, I think that's somebody. If you had your phone on and you're taking a picture of food that you put by the door, it would flash.
That's not a bad take either. Instead of it being a gunshot, how do you explain? What would you guess the firecracker was? A gunshot? Or
because
no?
I don't think it was a firecracker. I think that was from that freaking Vampire Diaries shit blowing up and shit like that.
Some loud TV.
I think everything shit. I think everything is coming from that show.
Have you heard of the dead internet theory for the tinfoil hat conspiracy of the day? Have you heard of this?
No, what is it? I can only imagine.
This is interesting. So there's a theory, and it's actually super popular, Lana, that 90% of the interactions you have on the internet are fake. Like, you're arguing with code. And this gained a lot of theory back in 2016 to 2019. Obviously, Reddit, 4chan, Twitter, X users.
Like, are you talking about like bots? Like, I'm arguing with bots? Like,
yes. Yeah. And it's like conversations feel fake. There's repetitive comments. People are there, and they're saying it got terrible in 2016, 2019. Recycle conversations, low effort, high traffic posts. That's one that's always been weird to me, where it's like, how is this getting pushed? Like, is that profile literally a code profile that no human is running or interacting with? It's just scraping and then creating a profile and putting it out there, and it's getting boosted because who knows why. But a lot of people say that this was done to control the narrative, hide real dissent, because if you flood the web, let's say that we're all talking, like in general, we're all saying, whether we agree exactly with what had happened in this case, at the end of the day, we're all saying that there should have been more transparency. The job could have been done better. The investigation should have been more smoothly. Who knows, right? It doesn't feel like it's very open source. And what the real purpose of the dead internet was to hide real dissent, because if you flood the web with bots that are a voice of reason, it makes people with a different opinion feel like they're being drowned out. They're getting ratioed, but it's not organic. It's all fake. And I totally feel that way sometimes when I see replies. I totally see that way. You go on TikTok. TikTok is a cesspool of bots. It's unbelievable. I can tell right away. It's user 976543221. No profile picture. One use. What? Yeah. And they're always the ones that are like, "Fuck you, Birdie," like some random shit like in my comments.
Well, I'll tell you this. I know that people buy subscribers and buy likes and buy views and shit like that.
They do it from the bot farms, and they'll do it to push narratives too. You know that in their
and I just laugh.
I'm wild.
Like, people are like, "Lana, why don't you have more subs?" I'm like, because I don't buy my fucking subs. Because it's all authentic, man.
And in general, you should never promote your stuff. You should never pay for ads, because the algorithm then will incentivize you to continue to pay for it. Okay, that happened to somebody that we know here in the Hive, and they were like, yeah, after doing some research, that's what happens. Like, wanted to promote one of their top performing videos, then killed their channel growth. I witnessed, so in my other company, I witnessed when I was sitting at a meeting, we were discussing how are we going to market this. Okay, well, there's a social media influencer that was saying they will pay for it, not just likes, and they'll pay for comments.
Oh yeah, comments.
It's crazy.
Comments.
It's
subscribe. Yeah, all of it. Like there's packages out there that you can buy.
The best way to support the stream is just press subscribe. Lana, you are awesome. Thank you for coming on to the Hive. It was a great conversation. And
thank you. Thank your mods. I appreciate your mods. Appreciate everybody in chat. Birdie, always a pleasure. You're a good ass dude.
With that, Hive,
Good.
I hope everybody has a great night. Cheers. Take care,
Peace
everybody.
out.
Thanks, Lena.
Thank you.
Birds flying high, you know how I feel. Sun in the sky, you know how I feel. Breeze drifting on by, you know how I feel. It's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new life.